It's a privilege to be here this evening. How many of you are immigrants or have an immigrant family background? If you aren't just visiting America, maybe from Korea or somewhere, you really are an immigrant. Everybody in America are immigrants. Don't think this thing's working here. But in reality, even the Native Americans, if you go back far enough, immigrated to America. So all of us are immigrants. My own ancestry can be traced back to that first boatload of immigrants that came on the Mayflower. My great-great-great-great-great-grandfather was Miles Standish, who was hired by the group of the Plymouth colony to protect them and travel with them as they established their colony here in America. We are a nation of immigrants, and we always will be a nation of immigrants. What is the greatest need of the immigrant community? If you were to ask them, they would tell you, I need a job. Can you get me a job? I know that because I've had literally hundreds of them come and beg me and plead with me for a job. If you have a job, you get to live in a nice house. People that have jobs eat good food. People that have jobs have clothes to wear. Can you get me a job? But the problem is, that's not their number one need. They think it is, but it actually, if they get a job too quickly, they will tend to stop right there and live the rest of their life on that part-time minimum wage job and will never progress. What they think is their number one need can actually very, very quickly become the roadblock that keeps them from success. If they're going to become successful and thrive in the new country that they have come to, there is something much more important than a job. Now, to be honest, the term immigrant is such a broad term. It includes all of us in this room. There are immigrants who arrive here with a good education, coming from a country that speaks English, with a bank account full of money. They're going to do fine, right? But the ones I want to talk about this evening are the immigrants who are just the opposite of that. They don't come well educated. In fact, many of them come from countries where they had no education. Many of the refugee immigrants that I deal with from day to day are actually illiterate in their mother tongue. They have grown up not speaking English. They have never been employed. They've grown up in an agrarian society where they grew all their own food, and they bartered with their neighbors for anything that they couldn't grow. It's this group, and the ones that may be a bit further along in the progression, that maybe have been to school but still don't speak English and have very few job skills that I'm addressing this evening. Many of the hundreds of thousands of refugee immigrants fall into this category. The refugee community is a subculture of the immigrant community who are often forgotten and neglected. These families have been forced from their home through no fault of their own, and many of them have lived for 10 and 15 years in immigration camps with very little, if any, sanitation, very little food and water. They have left their support system behind as they fled their home. They have no family. They have no friends to depend upon. They arrive and they're provided their basic needs: a house, food stamps, medical insurance, for a very short period of time. They know that this support will even disappear before long, and they will be expected to find a way to survive once that support dries up. Hence the intense need for a job. They believe that they must get that job. Their greatest fear is that they will not be able to support that family. And soon they'll be living on the street or under a bridge. But the reality is, they need much more than just a minimum wage job. Their needs are very, very many. They need to learn how to survive in a brand new world. And those needs will include basic health hygiene. They'll need to learn how to navigate and move by public transportation. They'll need to learn how to dress for work and to be on time, something many refugees have no concept of. If you're going to be successful and have a decent job, they must learn how to follow instructions and do exactly what they're asked to do and when they are asked to do it. They need to learn how to be observant and actually watch and catch on that this is the next job that's to be done and start doing it without being asked. Not wait for the instructions for every move they're told. If a refugee is truly going to become successful in the United States, he must get at least some basic education and hopefully get certified in some specialized skill, some level of food service, CNA, security, or driving. Of course, it's going to require that they have a decent grasp of English. This really brings us to what is the greatest need of the immigrant refugee community. The greatest need, as I see it, is a need for a mentor or a group of mentors who are willing to take the time to come alongside of the immigrant families and literally walk them through the lengthy process of learning all of life skills they're going to need to become successful. Or to say it more simply, become the loving arms of Jesus to wrap around them. Much of this, such as teaching them English, can be done in a group setting, but there's going to take a lot of individual attention, one-on-one, as you walk these families through the process of growing. This is really where the church family can shine. Members of the church can come alongside these very poor people, inviting them to participate right along with them in their family, learning the experiences of the new world they live in. This is really the method that Christ used in developing his own disciples, is it not? He came alongside of them. He modeled for them what they needed to learn and how. We don't find Jesus sitting in a classroom somewhere teaching them. I'm not against the universities, don't get me wrong there. But you don't learn how to really mentor someone in a classroom. It's only out in the trenches that this happens. We have in our community thousands of individuals who have no concept of what it means to live and become successful in the life that they have been dropped into. They need mentors to come and to walk with them, to hug them, to laugh with them, to cry with them, to teach them the necessary skills not only to survive, but to actually thrive. Now, I believe God has a plan for our refugee friends. It's the same plan he has for you and for me. Jeremiah 29:11. God says, I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you a hope and a future. And although these are God's plan for the refugees, He's dependent upon us to enact that plan. We are His hands, we are His arms here on this earth to reach out to these people, to help them, to love them. We, of course, need to start with meeting their physical needs for food, clothing, and shelter. But we must go beyond just the basic survival needs and teach and model for these friends the skills they need in a new homeland. We found that a thing as simple as a community garden is very successful because that's a skill they already know. Most of them, coming from the farmlands of their country, know how to grow food. And as they get out and grow the food that they're successful at, it gives them something that they're comfortable with. And then we can begin to stretch them and get them to grow in other areas. Volunteers from the church can teach them English. If our refugees are ever going to get beyond just surviving, it is essential that they get a good grasp of the English language. If they shortcut this step, it will hold them back for the rest of their lives. We also need to make use of the health professionals in our community to teach the refugees the basic hygienic and health skills they need. Work associates don't take kindly to extreme body odors and unsanitary conditions at work. And of course, if they're working in a food environment, basic health and hygienic skills are mandatory. These skills are common to us, but they're brand new to many of these refugees that now call America home. They're not used to daily bathing and regular laundering of their clothes. These skills have to be tactfully and carefully taught. It really means that the mentor must truly care foremost about the person that they're helping. And the refugee must feel that love and that care, or they'll be offended. Time management is often an area that refugees have never had an experience with. They've lived where time really didn't mean anything. If you're growing all your own food, you're not working for somebody, what difference does it make what time you go out to the garden? What difference does it make what time you do anything? But that's not the way it is in the world that they've been dropped into. Everything here runs according to the clock. I have to watch the clock here too. They have to realize that they have to be at a certain place at a certain time. And therefore, it's essential that everything we do, we model punctuality. When they get a job, they will not keep it very long if they don't come on time, or if they wander off the job early. They have to learn these skills. While the environment we live in seems natural and normal to us, it is very different for these people who have come here. Just picture for yourself for a minute being dropped anywhere else on this map where you've never been before in your life. You don't speak the language. You don't know how to communicate. You don't have a job. You don't have anything. What are you going to do besides panic? You can't even grow your own food because you don't even have land to do it in, and besides, it takes time, and you got to eat today. You don't know who to ask for help or even the language skills if you did. Your greatest need in reality is no different than the need of all of us. We all need someone who cares about us and is willing to do whatever it takes to make us successful and happy. We all need someone willing to understand us, mentor us, and show us how to accomplish our purpose in life. What is your purpose in life? The Dalai Lama said our prime purpose in life is to help others. And if you can't help them, at least don't hurt them. What is your primary purpose in life? If you ask many of the refugees, they'll reply, I'm just trying to survive and know where my next meal is coming from. I can't see beyond that. No wonder they think that the one need, the number one need, the only need they have is to get a job. God's plans for them are much, much, much greater than that. Ministering to the immigrant population in the urban jungle today is really not that much different than when Christ was walking the streets of Palestine 2,000 years ago. Back then, many didn't understand the real needs. But Christ understood. The real need today is the same as it was back then. We all need someone who genuinely cares and meets us where we are and is willing to do whatever it takes to become successful in life. It will often become dirty and grimy and take us out of our comfort zone. We who have become successful will need to roll up our sleeves, do things we've never done before in order to meet the needs of the refugees in our large cities. You could well be dealing with bed bugs and cockroaches. The odors and smells may at times make your stomach wrench. You undoubtedly will spend considerable time and energy doing things outside your comfort zone. That's nothing new. Jesus did that too. And he went way beyond what you'll ever have to do. You're not likely going to have to die for your enemies. We have the joyous privilege of mentoring those who are floundering in a new culture and environment. God has promised to provide us the needs if we will but step out in faith to meet the need that he puts before us. He will daily be teaching us what we need to be doing as we minister together for him in the urban jungle he's called us to. Jesus prayed for us just before he went to his death. John 17, 20 to 23. My prayer is not for them alone. I pray also for those who will believe in me through their message, that all of them may be one, Father, just as you are in me and I am in you. May they also be in us, so the world may believe that you have sent me. I have given them the glory that you gave me, that they may be one as we are one. I and them, you and me, so that they may be brought to complete unity. Then the world will know that you have sent me and have loved them even as you have loved me.